Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super Fantify. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Nosferatu. A very nice and interesting series premiere. Obviously, going into this, I've never read the book that this is based on, but just a tiny bit I've read almost makes it seem like, obviously, the show's kind of doing its own thing. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Once again, I don't know the book, so it doesn't really matter for my viewing purposes, but nevertheless. So it's really interesting just how it starts off. Obviously, the boy Daniel and his mom, that's kind of a sad, effed up situation. Like, I thought it was just going to be like, while mom's getting some, like, he ends up getting kidnapped. It's like, partially, yes. And then it's like, oh, mom and mom's boyfriend end up getting killed. That it sucks. And it's also sucky too because it was like, because the other dude, her boyfriend got drugged, well, probably like cyanide or something or whatever the case was in the needle, and his mom got her neck snapped. It's like, oh dude, and that sucks. Like, I think the car was right there, so I believe he saw it too. Interesting little details. The actor who played the dude, I think was his name, Mr. Ives. That dude, he plays Ledik in Happy. So I was like, oh. And obviously, Charlie being played by Zachary Quinto, who's been in so much stuff. Obviously, like more recent Star Trek movies from like J.J. Abrams, Sylar from Heroes. Like, it's just a long list of things you've seen. Everyone's obviously seen Zachary Quinto. I'd say Heroes is probably the thing I best know him from. But nevertheless. So it seems like he kidnaps Daniel because it's a situation of like, okay, you want to go to Christmas, I want to take you to Christmas land, where it's Christmas all the time, but also like it's against the law to be unhappy. But also it's like, oh, your mom, like, the fact of the matter is she didn't want you, she didn't want to play your game, so it's like, oh, get away from her, you'll be with me and Christmas land will be happy. And so... And it's so interesting because obviously you got that going on, and then everything on with the Maggie storyline I think is kind of interesting. I didn't know what to expect from her situation. I thought maybe she was just a regular girl. I was like, no, there's definitely something more to her because apparently she kind of has some magic or something. I also like the fact is that she had those little Scrabble pieces on her ears, like little earrings, being like the letter F and the other letter U. I'm like, that's pretty nice and rebellious. I like that. But it's interesting because the Scrabble pieces play a part in her because like she can reach her hand down into like a sack of Scrabbles, but it's like her entire arm. So I was like, okay, so that's like, what do you call those? It's a bottomless bag. I feel like there's another terminology for that. Whatever the case may be. I'm curious what her situation is. Is she supposed to be like a witch, psychic, like what that whole deal is? I mean, beyond that, that's all we really know about what she's capable of. And obviously, it seems like it's not like a clear answer. It seems like it gives her a rough estimate. Like when she pulled out like the pieces and then lined them and it says the Wraith. I was initially like, oh, it's because I'm under the impression because it seems like Charlie's supposed to be a vampire and everything. I was like, oh, is it supposed to be actually he's like a wraith or something? Like, because there are similar things like, in like Hemlock Grove, instead of vampires, they're called umpirs. But that's just because that's like from a different language and that translates to kind of similar to vampire. Regardless, I was wondering if it's kind of a similar thing where it's kind of like he isn't a vampire per se, he has vampire-like qualities, but maybe he's more like a wraith. I don't really know a lot of wraith. I always thought of wraiths as kind of more like ghost. But regardless, either way, it's talking about the car he's driving on. So I was like, oh, so that's interesting. So for her, the key pieces are there. And it doesn't seem like this is something that's just new. Like, she's been doing this for a while. Because even the cop, she's like, I helped out with the other thing. And it's like, yeah, you get a golden star for that. But the fact of the matter is this is going to be solved by police work. It's interesting, though, too, that, like, how Charlie operates, because it's like the guy that was working with him, who knows if he's been working for him for a very long time or not, or whether he constantly exchanges new people. But obviously he kills the dude because it's like, well, the fact is you left a sloppy scene and that could get the cops on our trails, which is interesting because it seems like such a supernatural thing, and for you to have to worry about the cops being on your trail, it seems like such a natural thing. It's so crazy. But it's so interesting because obviously the car does seem like it runs on some kind of magic in itself, because like the door opens up by itself, he flings out and ends up tumbling and ends up dying from it. So, but it's just because it doesn't seem like this situation with Daniel is the only thing. It seems like he's done it, screwed up a couple of times beforehand. So But what I'm interested in is, like, obviously we didn't see the outright, like, oh, he bit him to transform him. Is it a thing of, like, because, like, the whole premise is, like, he takes kids' souls. So it's like, is taking their souls what transforms them into what, you know, Daniel turns into later on? Because obviously it's a slow but steady process. Also, the fact is, like, you have Charlie getting younger and younger as the episode progresses. It's like, and it seems like it's unusual for him. I was like, oh, I was like, oh, you're an old man here. I was like, oh, is that what happens? I was like, do you go to Christmas Land, you get young again, or are you absorbing souls? And it's like, no, it seems like it's even new to him. Like, whoa, something's happened to you, but something's happened to me. It seems like this is the first time potentially. I wonder, is it one of those things of, like, he's immortal, but, you know, the fact is that he still grows old and stays that age as Odin, but he doesn't, I mean, Odin, he ages, but he just doesn't die. I wonder if that type of immortality has going on, but it seems like for whatever reason, it's reversing. So I'm curious to see what that ends up being about. And obviously there's just one side of things, because there's also everything with our main character, Vic, kind of getting associated with her life. Interestingly enough, the actor who plays her dad is the actor who played Micro in the Punisher TV show on Netflix. I thought that was pretty. I was like, hey, Micro, or, you know, David, aka Micro. But regardless, obviously, it doesn't seem like she has the best life. Obviously, like, it doesn't seem like she has many friends. It seems like she has maybe two at best. Willa and then the dude from school. It seems like she's pretty tight with the janitor, but that's about it. Everyone else at the school, at least from what we got introduced so far, kind of seems like a piece of shit. There's problems at home, issues with her mom. Why do I recognize that actress who plays her mom? She seems so familiar, and it's like, I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't quite place it. I know her from something. Is that the mom from the Glades? That police procedural that was on, was it A&E? Is that what I recognize her from? That was bothering the hell out of me, because I was like, I recognize her and I just can't place it. I want to say that's it. She was the mom. She's one of the main characters in the show. Oh, I think so. I might be crazy, but regardless. Doesn't seem like her home life is that good. Obviously, could we get that turn where it's like, oh, it seems like her dad's abusive. But the whole sad situation is, I think it's that thing of, like, her mom, she has a very complicated relationship with her mom, because her mom's like, oh, she wants her to do this, follow in the business. But it's like, I don't want to clean houses like you. But for her, it's like, going to college is expensive. There's not enough money. Obviously, she's trying to keep everything balanced and held down, because it's like struggling with her marriage and probably just paying the bills and stuff like that. It's a complicated thing. You know, obviously, the way they're, you know, arguing at each other like cats and dogs, like it gets pretty bad. Like, I figured like it was kind of an abusive situation going on, because like when she first got there, he was putting his hands in like ice or something. I'm like, but then like nothing came about it. It's like, oh, where's mom? And she's like, and he's like, I don't know. I'm like, that's a little suspicious. But then later on, you hard cut to it later on, and it's like, oh, they're having dinner together. But I guess it's like, well, that kind of feeds into that abusive relationship, where it's just kind of like, you know, it's like, no, he promised it'll never happen again, or at the very least, you're trying to keep your family together, so you don't want to be breaking apart. Because the sad thing is, it's like, maybe because her mom knows on some level, it's like Vic would rather be with her than be with her dad rather than be with me, just because they have a tighter relationship. Her dad's telling her, you know, I guess he's kind of cool, but also the fact is that he doesn't try to stomp on her dreams. It's just kind of like, you can be and do whatever you want to. Don't let your mom or anyone else stop you from it. But it is just that thing of Vic kind of feeling more and more like an outcast, in the sense of, like, she goes to that party with her friend Willa's. Dude there kind of says some dickish stuff. Another dude says some dickish stuff. The sad thing is, there's that dude, you know, who started off a little dickish, but it's like, oh, hey, he starts, you know, talking to her and everything, and it looks like they're hitting it off, but I think for her, she just looks at it as like, oh, you're just trying to take pity on me. It's like, this is what you do. You kind of get like cozied up to like girls from this small town. He's like, no, it's not like that. And she walks away, because she just feels like she's just being, you know, made a fool of and manipulated. And then, you know, Willa's mom, it's like, oh, your mom, I saw her, she's all business. If there's a women's shelter, if you and your mom, and it's like, no, it's not like that. But it's like, oh, the fact is, even she's pointing it out, you know, so it complicates things a lot. Now, what's really interesting about Vic's situation is she's coming across this bridge. Now, it turns out that bridge collapsed 15 years ago. So it's like, how the hell am I seeing a bridge that's supposed to have been destroyed 15 years ago? And it seems like every time she goes in there, it does something, because like at first it's like, oh, Willa's. Well, then she goes to Willa's later on and finds her mom's credit card. Later on, it's like her dad's missing his watch. It says Aunt Carrie's Aunt Carrie's, on the wall, but then it's like, oh, she goes there and finds her dad's watch, and it's like, okay, so it seems like this particular pathway, it seems like it has some kind of connection to her. It's almost like, and it does seem, for one, it seems like it does take it has an effect on her, because it seems like every time she goes through it, like obviously like her ears start ringing, there's bats in there, but it also seemed like Charlie could tap into it because he start picking it up on his radio. I guess that's how he finds people. It's like when people are so desperate to find something, kind of an escape from their lives, find somewhere else that they can belong and stuff. I think even though she's like 18 years old, like, that's what I'm thinking, because it's like, or at least at the very least she's like in her 17 or 18. I just assume because it's like her last year of high school or whatever. But the fact is that I assumed it was like little kids he was mainly going after, but maybe if there's like sadly enough damage, young people, it's like, oh, even if you're slightly on an older age, if you're young and damaged, oh, perfect, I'll come steal your soul type of thing. That's how I'm chalking it up so far. Once again, first episode, so, more will be revealed as it goes forward. But it is interesting, because I'm wondering, is that bridge specifically tied to her, and for what reason? Because the thing is, like, later on, like, you had Charlie opening a map, and it's all these different like little points, and then all of a sudden the short way pops up, and I'm like, the shorter way pops up, and I'm like, okay, so are those supposed to be like magical doorways in between realms or something? Like, is that what that's supposed to be, like different doorways that, or like it's supposed to be like maybe kind of like magical ley lines type of situation of like, oh, this is something that lays on some magic? Because the fact is it just magically pops up like that makes me think, like, because no one else had seen it prior to that day. I'm sure even like Vic had never seen it either, but the fact is it appeared now. Even on his map it appears, so it seems like it came at a point in time when Vic needed it the most, when maybe Vic is needed the most, So that's one I'm wondering about that. But it seems like we don't 100% know how it works, but like I was bringing up earlier, it does seem like it takes a strain out of her. The third time she uses it later on, it seems like she's okay, but maybe it's just because she was rested. But obviously it seemed like the first time it's like, you can see like the blood vessels in her eyes are popping or something, because her eye got super bloody and red. So it's like, maybe it's like the bridge seems like it's kind of taking you across space and time, kind of moving it. Like, it's kind of like an impossible space, and it seems like that puts a strain on a human body. Maybe she utilizes it enough. Maybe she's out of sync with it, but the more in sync she is with the bridge, maybe the less, like, ramifications will happen to her, for it. I don't know. I'm curious, like, where that is and how, like, maybe that just shows that Vic is special, not just like, oh, this bridge is connected to her, but maybe she drew it in some shape or form. I don't know. I mean, because sadly for her, it's like, her dad's making a promise. It's like, oh, I'll never hit your mom again. I'm going to stop drinking. When she wakes up, it turns out, oh, dad's gone. I'm going to go be with him. But it's like, no, your dad, he not just left me, he left you. It's like, no, he wouldn't. She uses the bridge and finds out her dad is having an affair, and he's still drinking again. So it's like, obviously it makes her, for one, it's like, hey, I forgave him for like the fact that he hit mom. But it's like, okay, he's going to work on it, he's going to be better, but now on top of it, it's like, now you see it's like he's leaving you for someone else, because it's like, your mom is one thing, but I think it's also like the fact is that he was leaving you behind, because it's like, oh, he said all this sweet stuff, but the fact is it means I don't mean anything to him, and the fact is he's drinking too, even though he promised he would stop. And I think for her, it's like, I think that's what Charlie looks for, that like, that, and that's what Daniel was kind of talking about. He feels like he's, he's lonely, and the fact is he feels like there are moments where he feels like he's the only one in the world, and I think Vic kind of feels like that right now, because obviously they had the best relationship with her mom, and whatever was left of her relationship with her dad, where things were good, that crumbled the moment she saw all that. So what that means for Vic going forward, we'll have to wait and see. But obviously, Maggie is connecting the dots to Vic, because she uses her Scrabble pieces again, and it says the brat, and the brat is what Vic's dad refers to her as. So there's definitely a lot of pieces coming together right now, because obviously we know after he drops Daniel off, Charlie's planning to go to Massachusetts, where Vic is. Obviously, he doesn't know what it is, but something there's drawing him in. So, obviously, you know, a lot of setup, but a lot of interesting questions that kind of are to get things started. Like, okay, so what is this all about necessarily? What is Charlie's whole deal? Has he always been what he is, like potentially, you know, a vampire and everything, stealing souls? Did he turn into the monster that needed souls? You know, because the thing is, like, we see Daniel with the teeth and everything like that, but obviously, like, Charlie doesn't look like that. That's why I'm like, how did the transformation happen? Did he bite him? Is it just stealing his soul? Like, is it being in the car and near him, just slowly but surely morphing him into a monster? Or did he bite him and we just haven't seen it? Because I just thought it was kind of interesting. We haven't seen his vampiric teeth at all. But, you know, once again, maybe he just operates on a different level than, you know, what's happening to Daniel right now. Who knows? I had brought this up earlier, but, like, obviously, like, the whole aspect of, like, oh, the bridge takes Vic where she needs to be, you know. And it's so interesting because, like, based on the trailer, I'd seen, like, and, you know, once again, trailers can be deceiving because they're just out of context stuff. I mean, it still could have applied later on, but I was under the impression all the bridge did was serve as a doorway for her to get to Christmas line and then she got to get stuck or something. I thought that, but it's like, no, she's utilizing the bridge in multiple scenes. And the crazy thing is, too, it's not like it's all in her head or something, because even that dude, when she came back from Aunt Carrie's, it was like, the dude's like, yeah, you seeing this? And she was asking him, and he was like, yeah, I totally see this and everything. So it's like, it's not just visible to her, and so it seems like it kind of, once again, it just, the whole aspect of it seems like it moves out of time and space, because obviously it's from 15 years ago, and it seems like it teleports her across space. So it's definitely working on some very interesting aspects, which is also interesting. If you know, in moving across time and space, Zachary Quinto being in Heroes and Hero. Being the one with the ability for moving across time and space. I know I'm like overthinking and bringing connections like that. It's just interesting saying that out loud. Kind of maybe go, oh yeah, connecting those dots there. Regardless, it's just kind of an interesting thing that it kind of operates in more than just the facet that I thought it did. You know, so. I'm very interested to see where, you know, all this kind of ends up taking us going forward. I should also note that apparently you can watch all of season 1 right now. At least what I was reading on the AMC website. I don't know whether it's like an app thing or something, but it seems like there's like obviously the subscription aspect to it, but it's like, it seems like if you upgrade or something, or maybe that's just purely like, oh, you get, you know, subscription or whatever, you can watch all of season 1 right now. So, but I mean, other than that, it will be coming out week to week. I don't know, maybe there's other platforms where it's coming out in its entirety, but I'll just mainly be watching it week to week. So, in case you're curious, and in case you want to just watch all of it at once. So, just throwing that out there if you aren't aware. I just learned about that today. So, regardless, like I said, I am very interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.